Let's talk about something huge. What if the US dollar, the very foundation of the global economy for almost 100 years, is actually on shaky ground? We're going to dive into the forces that could, believe it or not, end the dollar's reign and what that might mean for, well, all of us.
I want you to just picture this for a second. You wake up, you grab your phone, and the headlines are just insane. Gas prices have shot through the roof, your life savings are suddenly worth half of what they were yesterday. The whole world has changed, literally overnight. Now I know this sounds like something out of a movie, right? A total nightmare. But here's the thing. This is a scenario that some very serious financial experts are actually mapping out behind closed doors. The conversation has shifted. It's no longer if the dollar will face a major test, but when.
Okay, so to really get what's happening right now, we've got to do a quick rewind and look at how the dollar became the king of the hill in the first place.
It all kicked off back in 1944 at Bretton Woods. The deal was simple. The dollar would be the world's currency, and it was backed by gold. Solid. But then, in 1971, the U.S. severed that link to gold. And then came the real game changer, the petrodollar system. Basically, if you wanted to buy oil, you had to use U.S. dollars. This created a massive, constant demand for the currency. But lately, especially with the heavy use of financial sanctions, the whole world is starting to rethink that deal.
So, let's talk about the first major crack in the dollar's armor: debt. Just look at that number. The U.S. national debt has blown past $35 trillion. To put that in perspective, the interest payments alone are nearly $1 trillion a year. That's more than the entire U.S. defense budget. It's just staggering.
And how does the country service a debt that big? Well, you create more money. Get this, almost 40% of all U.S. dollars that have ever existed were printed in just 2 years. Think about that. And you know what happens when you have way more money chasing the same amount of stuff? It's the textbook recipe for inflation.
So it's no surprise that all of this has sparked a kind of quiet but very organized rebellion. Countries all over the world are now making calculated moves to get out from under the dollar's thumb. It's a movement, and it's called de-dollarization. The real trigger, the moment everyone snapped to attention, was the decision in 2022 to freeze Russia's foreign reserves. That sent a massive shockwave across the globe. You had leaders in China, Saudi Arabia, India, you name it, looking at their own piles of dollars and thinking, wait a minute, if they can do it to them, they can do it to us. And that's when they started looking for an exit fast.
And the main group leading this charge is the BRICS alliance. And we're not talking about a small club here. This bloc represents a massive chunk of the world's population and its economic output. And they aren't just holding meetings. No, they are actively building their own financial plumbing, new payment systems, and they're trading huge commodities like oil in their own currencies, completely bypassing the dollar.
So if they're moving away from the dollar, where are they putting their trust? 2 words: gold. Central banks around the world have been on an unprecedented gold buying spree, grabbing it up at the fastest rate in over half a century. And why? Well, it's simple. Gold is neutral territory. It can't be printed out of thin air, and it can't be frozen by another country. It is the ultimate vote of no confidence in the current system.
But hold on, before you go trade all your cash for gold bars, it is absolutely not that simple. You see, the dollar still has some incredibly powerful, deep-rooted advantages that are keeping it locked in that #1 spot.
Look, for all its problems, the dollar's competitors have even bigger ones. The euro is constantly dealing with political drama. Nobody really trusts China's yuan because of their strict government controls. And a unified BRICS currency? It doesn't even exist yet. So when you look around, the dollar, backed by the world's biggest economy and most powerful military, still looks like the safest house in a pretty shaky neighborhood.
And maybe the dollar's biggest superpower is something called the network effect. The entire global financial system, everything, is built on dollar plumbing. Every major contract, most global debt, it's all in dollars. Trying to replace it would be like trying to get everyone on Earth to ditch the internet and switch to some new, totally unproven network overnight. It's just, the inertia is absolutely massive.
So you put all this together, the weaknesses, the strengths, the challengers, what do you get? Well, the most likely outcome here isn't some sudden dramatic collapse. It's more of a gradual transformation, a slow shift into a totally new kind of financial world.
And that future probably looks something like this: a multipolar world. See, the dollar doesn't just vanish,
But its dominance, it shrinks. It goes from being the sun in the financial solar system to being just one of several large planets, sharing the stage with the euro, the yuan, and maybe, just maybe, a new currency from the BRICS countries.
So how will you know if this big shift is actually picking up steam? Well, here are 5 key signals you've got to watch. Keep an eye on U.S. bond auctions. Do foreign buyers start to disappear? Watch how fast big commodities like oil stop being priced in dollars. See if the Fed can actually control inflation. Pay attention to political stability, and of course, the big one, if a functional BRICS currency actually goes live. Think of these as your flashing warning lights.
But let's be really clear here. This is not just some abstract debate for economists and politicians. This whole transition has very, very real consequences for you and for your money.
A weaker dollar is pretty simple to understand, really. It means your savings buy less. A lot less. The cost of basically everything you import, that's your phone, your gas, even some of your food, it all skyrockets. And to try and defend the currency, interest rates would likely have to climb, making that mortgage, that car loan, any kind of debt, way more expensive.
Now, the point of all this isn't to cause a panic. Not at all. It's about being prepared, smart preparation. And that means looking at things like diversifying your money into other currencies, owning real, hard assets like gold or real estate, and getting some investment exposure outside the US. And maybe the most important things, reducing your own personal debt and investing in skills that have value no matter what currency the world is using.
Look, the world is right in the middle of a massive financial shift, the kind of thing that really only happens once a century. We're watching the sunset on one economic era, and the only question that matters is, will you be ready for whatever dawn comes next?